Welcome to the Retirement Wealth Podcast, where we dive into the world of retirement planning and wealth management. I'm so glad you're joining us today.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Today, we're exploring a really interesting topic, using rental income to fund your retirement.
Right. It's such a smart way to create additional income streams. A lot of folks might not realize just how powerful rental properties can be in their retirement strategy.
Exactly. We'll be discussing how to identify the right properties, the potential risks involved, and how to manage those properties effectively.
And not just that, but we'll also touch on how rental income can provide financial stability during retirement, which is so important, right?
Absolutely. It's all about creating that peace of mind. We want to help our listeners understand how to make their money work for them, even after they've stopped working.
Plus, we'll share some real-life success stories from retirees who have used rental income successfully. That's always inspiring.
For sure, it's great to see how these strategies can play out in real life.
So, if you're thinking about enhancing your retirement income or simply curious about the benefits of rental properties, stay tuned.
Let's get started and dive into our first point. You know, Emily, it's really interesting how timely this topic of using rental income to fund retirement is. Given the current economic landscape, many folks are feeling the pinch from inflation, right?
Absolutely, David. I think a lot of people are realizing that their traditional retirement savings might not stretch as far as they hoped. With rising prices, it's like everything's getting more expensive, and that can be really stressful for anyone planning their retirement.
Exactly. And let's not forget the market volatility we've been seeing. One week, the stock market is up, and the next, it's down. It's a roller coaster ride. So having a steady rental income can provide that cushion, that stability.
Yes, it's like having a safety net in place. I've talked to several retirees who've mentioned how their rental properties have helped them sleep better at night, knowing they have a consistent income, regardless of what the stock market is doing.
Right. And there's also the tax efficiency aspect. Rental income, for many, can be taxed at a lower rate than other forms of income, like regular wages or even some investment income. This can really help stretch those retirement dollars further, especially if you structure it right.
That's a great point. And considering the upcoming changes to Social Security, it's been a hot topic lately, hasn't it? With the trust fund projected to run out in a few years, people are getting more anxious about relying solely on that income.
Definitely. And, I've spoken with a couple in their early 60s who were counting on Social Security to cover a significant portion of their retirement expenses. When they learned about the potential changes, they realized they needed a backup plan. That's when they turned to real estate investing.
That's a smart move. And I think it's also important to touch on healthcare costs. They can really add up in retirement. Having that rental income can provide a buffer to cover unexpected medical expenses, which, let's face it, can be daunting.
For sure. I often remind clients that healthcare is one of the biggest expenses they'll face in retirement. It's like a ticking time bomb. So having that rental income means they can better handle those costs without sacrificing their lifestyle.
I recently spoke with a retiree named Susan. She shared that while her savings were solid, her rental property gave her the flexibility to travel and enjoy experiences without worrying about dipping into her savings too much. That emotional side of financial security is so vital, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. When people feel financially secure, they can truly enjoy their retirement. It's not just about money, it's about freedom and peace of mind. And, I've seen it firsthand with clients who have diversified their income streams. They tend to have a more fulfilling retirement experience.
That's so true. And it's interesting to think about legacy planning, too. Many retirees want to leave something behind for their children or grandchildren, and rental properties can be a wonderful asset to pass down.
Yes. Imagine being able to not only create a steady income for yourself, but also provide future generations with a tangible asset. It's like giving them a head start. I've worked with families where the parents have set up trusts for their properties, ensuring that their kids benefit from that income long after they're gone.
I love that idea. It's not just about your own retirement, but about setting your family up for success. It's a win-win. And amidst all these economic trends we're seeing, like rising interest rates, it's becoming clearer that people need to think outside the box when it comes to their retirement planning.
Exactly. With interest rates affecting everything from mortgages to investment returns, traditional strategies might not be as effective anymore. Having that rental income provides an additional layer of protection against these trends. It's like having a diversified portfolio in real estate.
Right. And for those just starting on their retirement journey, it's a good time to consider this option. Whether it's buying a single-family home to rent out or investing in multifamily properties, there are so many avenues to explore.
Absolutely. The key is to start thinking about your goals and how rental income can fit into that picture. Are you looking for cash flow now, or are you more focused on long-term appreciation? Each strategy can be tailored to fit individual needs.
And with the current economic climate, planning ahead is crucial. It's not just about what's happening today, it's about anticipating future challenges and making proactive decisions.
Well said. It's like building a financial fortress, one that can withstand the storms of economic change. And that's why I think diving into core strategies for leveraging rental income is so important right now.
Absolutely. Let's explore those strategies next.
So, Emily, let's dive into some core strategies for using rental income to fund retirement. One of the first things that comes to mind is how crucial it is to have a solid plan for that income stream.
Absolutely, David. Rental properties can be a fantastic source of income, but it's not as simple as just buying a property and hoping for the best, right?
Exactly. You really need to think about the numbers. For instance, a common rule of thumb is that your rental income should cover at least 1% of the property's purchase price each month. So, if you buy a property for $200,000, you'd want to aim for around $2,000 a month in rent.
Right, and that's before you factor in expenses. You need to consider things like property taxes, maintenance, and vacancies. It's important to have a cushion to cover those costs.
Definitely. A good approach is to budget around 50% of your rental income for expenses. So if you're expecting $2,000 in rent, you might want to plan for $1,000 to go toward expenses. That leaves you with $1,000 a month, which is still a solid addition to your retirement income.
And don't forget about the potential tax advantages. Rental income is generally taxed at a lower rate than ordinary income, and there are various deductions you can take, like depreciation, repairs, and even mortgage interest.
Right, that's a big one. Depreciation can be a significant deduction over time for residential properties. The IRS allows you to depreciate the value of the property over 27.5 years. So, if you buy a property worth $275,000, you could potentially deduct about $10,000 a year.
Wow, that really adds up, and it's a great way to reduce your tax burden while still generating income. But David, what about people who aren't quite ready to jump into being landlords?
Good point, Emily. Not everyone wants the responsibility of managing a property. That's where real estate investment trusts, or REITs, can come into play. They allow you to invest in real estate without having to manage any properties directly.
Right, and they often pay out dividends too, which can be a nice income stream. Just like rental properties, you need to be mindful of the risks and do your homework on the REITs you're considering.
Exactly. And while we're on the topic of income, let's touch on how rental income can fit into a broader retirement strategy. For instance, if you're relying on rental income, you'll want to consider your overall asset allocation.
That's so true. A common rule of thumb is the 70-30th rule for asset allocation, 70% in stocks and 30% in bonds. But if you have significant rental income, you might adjust that based on your comfort level with risk and your other income sources.
Spot on. If you're confident in your rental income, you might feel more comfortable with a slightly aggressive portfolio, but you also have to think about withdrawal strategies.
Right. The 4% rule is something we often hear about. It suggests that you can withdraw 4% of your retirement savings each year without running out of money. But if you have rental income, you might be able to adjust that.
Exactly. If your rental income is covering a significant portion of your expenses, you might be able to withdraw less from your investments. This can help your portfolio last longer, especially in a volatile market.
And then there's the bucket strategy you've mentioned before, where you separate your investments into different buckets based on when you'll need the money. So if you have a bucket for immediate needs filled with cash or bonds, and another for long-term growth with stocks, it can really help manage risk.
Yes. And it's particularly useful if you know you have reliable rental income coming in. You can feel more secure about putting more money in the growth bucket for the long term, since you have that steady income flow.
That's such a smart way to think about it. And while we're discussing strategies, we should mention Social Security optimization.
Absolutely. Many people overlook how rental income can affect their Social Security benefits. The more income you have, the less you may need to rely on Social Security, which can influence when you decide to start taking those benefits.
Right. And delaying Social Security benefits can be beneficial too. Each year you wait past your full retirement age increases your benefits by about 8% until age 70. So if you can fund your expenses through rental income during that time, it could be a great strategy.
Exactly. And it's worth noting that you should also consider required minimum distributions, or RMDs, if you have tax-advantaged accounts. Once you hit age 72, the IRS requires you to start taking distributions from your retirement accounts, which can impact your tax situation.
That's a great reminder. Balancing those distributions with rental income can help you manage your tax bracket and overall income more effectively.
Right, and speaking of taxes, there are several tax-saving techniques that retirees should keep in mind. For instance, if you're renting out a room in your home, you may not have to pay taxes on that income, up to a certain limit.
Yes, and it's great to know that you can also 1031 exchange properties, which allows you to defer capital gains taxes when you sell one rental property and buy another. It's a powerful tool for real estate investors.
Absolutely. But, while there are many advantages to using rental income in retirement, it's also important to be aware of some common pitfalls.
Right, like not having enough emergency funds set aside, or underestimating the costs of managing a property.
Exactly. It's crucial to be prepared for the unexpected. So, Emily, as we dive into the common pitfalls, I think it's important to start with something that a lot of folks overlook: the sequence of returns risk. It sounds a bit technical, but it's really about how the timing of investment returns can affect your retirement savings.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think many people assume that as long as their investments average a certain return over time, they're safe. But if they happen to experience bad returns early in retirement, it can really hurt their portfolio, right?
Exactly. I had a client, let's call him Tom. He retired in 2007, right before the financial crisis. His portfolio took a significant hit, and because he was withdrawing from it to live on, it really compounded the problem. He ended up having to adjust his lifestyle significantly, which was tough for him.
Wow, that's a tough situation. I imagine a lot of people don't think about those early years in retirement being so crucial.
Absolutely. And that's why I always tell my clients to have a diversified withdrawal strategy. It's important to have a mix of income sources, maybe some rental income, Social Security, and other investments to weather those early storms.
Speaking of income sources, I think people often ignore the tax implications of their withdrawals. They might think that they can just take money out whenever they want without considering how it affects their tax bracket.
Right! That's a big one. I had another client, Sarah, who was blissfully unaware of how taking large withdrawals from her traditional IRA would push her into a higher tax bracket. She ended up paying significantly more in taxes than she anticipated, which hurt her overall retirement budget.
That's such a good example. It's like a double whammy. Not only is she losing money to taxes, but then she has less to spend on her actual needs.
Exactly. And that's why planning for taxes in retirement is crucial. You want to strategize your withdrawals so that you're not just thinking about the amount you need, but also how much you'll keep after taxes.
And what about healthcare costs? I feel like that's another area where people tend to underestimate their expenses.
Oh, for sure. Healthcare can be a huge expense in retirement. I remember working with a couple, the Johnsons, who thought they'd be fine just budgeting for Medicare, but they didn't account for the out-of-pocket costs, dental work and long-term care. They were really caught off guard.
That's so important to highlight. It's not just about having Medicare. It's about understanding what it doesn't cover.
Right, and it's essential to consider longevity, too. People are living longer, and that means their savings have to last longer. If you retire at 65, you could be looking at 30 years or more of retirement.
Wow, that's a lot of years to plan for. It's easy to see why people might underestimate how much they actually need, especially if they're not factoring in inflation and rising costs.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of asset allocation. Many retirees stick with the same allocation they had during their working years, which might not be suitable for retirement.
Oh, I've seen that too. They might be too heavily invested in stocks, thinking they'll get those higher returns, but that also comes with higher risk.
Right. A client of mine, let's call him Mike, was heavily invested in tech stocks. When the market corrected, he lost a significant portion of his savings. A more balanced approach could have helped him avoid that.
So, how do people recognize if their asset allocation is off? Are there red flags they should be looking for?
Great question. If you're nearing retirement and your portfolio is still aggressively weighted towards high-risk investments, that's a red flag. Another sign is if you're feeling anxious about market fluctuations. That anxiety can indicate that your risk tolerance isn't aligned with your current financial needs.
That makes sense. And it's also important to consider Social Security claiming strategies. I often hear people say they want to claim as early as possible, but that can sometimes backfire.
Yes, claiming Social Security too early can reduce your benefits significantly. I had a couple, the Millers, who claimed at 62 without realizing they could have received a lot more if they waited until their full retirement age. They essentially locked in lower benefits for the rest of their lives.
That's such a common mistake. So what should people consider before claiming?
Well, it's essential to evaluate your health, your spouse's benefits, and your overall retirement plan. Sometimes waiting a few years can really pay off in the long run.
So it seems like the key takeaway here is to have a comprehensive plan that considers all these factors together.
Absolutely. And the earlier you start thinking about these things, the better. It's about being proactive rather than reactive.
Right. So if someone realizes they've made any of these mistakes, what's the next step for them?
First, don't panic. The good news is that it's often possible to adjust your plan. Start by reviewing your financial situation, consulting with a financial advisor to reassess your asset allocation, and create a withdrawal strategy that considers taxes and healthcare costs.
That sounds like a solid plan. It's all about being informed and making adjustments as needed, right?
Exactly. And remember, it's never too late to change course.
Well said. I think having these conversations is so important for anyone planning for retirement or already retired.
Definitely. It's about empowering people with the knowledge they need to navigate their retirement successfully.
And that leads us into what comes next. How can our listeners take action on this information?
Well, one of the best things they can do is to take a good look at their financial picture. Maybe even set up a meeting with a financial advisor who specializes in retirement planning. And don't forget to communicate with your family about your plans and needs.
Communication is key. And they should also consider joining local workshops or online seminars to deepen their understanding of retirement strategies.
Absolutely. Education is a powerful tool in retirement planning.
For sure. I'm really glad we've had this conversation today, David. It's packed with valuable insights.
Me too, Emily. It's always great to help people think through these crucial aspects of their retirement journey.
Yes. And with that, let's encourage our listeners to take those next steps.
Agreed. They deserve a fulfilling retirement, and planning can make all the difference. So, Emily, now that we've explored how rental income can be a part of retirement planning, let's dive into some actionable steps that listeners can take right now.
Absolutely, David. It can feel overwhelming, but starting small can make a big difference. What do you think is the first step someone should consider?
Well, I'd say the first step is to evaluate your current financial situation. You can start by reviewing your portfolio, like maybe on a quarterly basis. This helps you understand where your investments stand and if they align with your retirement goals.
That's a great point. And for those who might be a bit unsure how to review their portfolios, there are some fantastic tools out there, right?
Yes. Websites like Vanguard, Fidelity, and Schwab offer retirement calculators that are super user-friendly. You can input your current savings, expected expenses, and even projected rental income. It gives you a clearer picture of where you stand.
Right, and it can also help you run different scenarios, like what if you increased your rental income or adjusted your spending? It's really eye-opening.
Exactly. And while you're at it, I'd recommend checking out the Social Security Administration's website, ssa.gov. They have tools where you can estimate your benefits, which is crucial for planning.
That's really useful. And Some people might have concerns about taxes when it comes to rental income. What can they do?
Great question. I'd suggest looking into tax software like TurboTax or H&R Block, which can help you understand the tax implications of your rental properties. They offer guidance on deductions and credits that may be available.
And for those who prefer a more personal touch, consulting a certified tax advisor can be a really smart move too.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about habits. What are some small habits people can start to build their retirement strategy?
I think running retirement projections regularly is a good habit to adopt. Just to see how your plan holds up against your goals, and it keeps you engaged with your strategy.
Yes, and even things like setting aside time to read up on the market trends or real estate news can be really beneficial. Staying informed makes a big difference.
Speaking of staying informed, are there any books or podcasts you'd recommend for our listeners who want to deepen their knowledge about retirement planning?
Definitely. The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey is a classic for understanding personal finance. And for those interested in real estate, the book on rental property investing by Brandon Turner is a must-read.
I love that one. And for podcasts, Bigger Pockets dives deep into real estate investing strategies. It's a fantastic resource for anyone looking to get started.
Exactly. Just take it one step at a time. It's never too late to improve your plan, whether you're already in retirement or just getting started.
So true. And, setting goals can help too. Maybe aim to acquire one rental property this year, or even just attend a local real estate seminar.
Yes, and networking with others in your community can provide insights and opportunities you might not have considered. You never know what connections could lead to the next step in your retirement plan.
Right, and as you start implementing these steps, remember to keep adjusting your plan as needed. Life changes, and so should your strategy.
That's a key point. Being adaptable is crucial. And with these tools in your pocket, you're really ready to strengthen your retirement plan.
For sure. So as we look ahead, let's recap what we've covered today.
Well, that was quite a deep dive into using rental income as a strategy for retirement, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I think some key takeaways really stand out. First, the idea of diversifying income sources. It can make such a difference in creating a more stable financial future.
Right, and then there's the importance of understanding the responsibilities that come with being a landlord. It's not just about collecting rent, but also managing properties and tenant relationships.
Yeah, and let's not forget about the tax benefits. Utilizing rental income can help reduce your taxable income, which is a huge plus for retirees.
Definitely. And, also the potential for appreciation over time. Real estate can really grow in value, adding another layer to your retirement wealth.
Exactly. It's all about building and protecting that wealth, right? You want to create a solid foundation for your retirement years so you can enjoy them to the fullest.
That's so true. And remember, it's important to have a strategy in place. Whether you're looking at rental properties or other investment avenues, having a plan can really guide your decisions.
And as we wrap up today, we'd love to hear from you. If you found value in this episode, please like, subscribe, and drop a comment about your biggest takeaway or any questions you might have.
And don't forget to share this episode with someone you know who is planning for retirement or is already in it. It could really help them out.
Next time, we'll dive into a really interesting topic, how Social Security benefits are calculated in the U.S. You won't want to miss it.
That's such an important aspect of retirement planning. Understanding those benefits can really make a difference.
So until then, take care and keep building that retirement wealth, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.